In the evangelical world, we have a hard time believing that one of the most holy things we can do is rest. I mean, the mission is so big and the need is so great. Evangelism is coursing through our through our veins as we struggle with people that we know and we love that don't know Jesus. You move in these circles long enough, and work becomes an addiction where you are constantly measuring how often you were praying or how often you are doing your Bible study or how often you are at the church or how often that you are serving in different ministries, and sometimes it even starts to spill over into work settings. I've worked around devout Christians my whole life, whether in the church or here at Ozark Christian College. And one of the things I've noticed is that a lot of Christians are very worried to make sure everybody else knows they're working hard. Oh, I wasn't here, but I was still doing some work at home, and no one had asked them if they had been faithful to their work. Well, I'm just so busy right now. My calendar's so full. I'm meeting with students, and I'm writing things, and I'm teaching all the time, and I'm going to this church and that church, and no one thought you were being disobedient. And yet there's this compulsion, this insecurity that demands to show our work. Because work is how you know you are close to holiness. And let me just tell you right now, that's not true. There is a unique balance in work. Now, hear me very clearly when I say work is not evil. Work existed before the fall. Like in Genesis 1 and 2, man and woman were created and placed in a garden to work the garden, to tend to it, to give life to the creatures of the new creation. But there was a seventh day where Christians were asked to rest. And that seventh day was just as holy as the other six that were spent working. And yet, in my own life, and what I see in the church, is we are more obsessed with working than being, with doing than resting. And many of us work well, but not many of us rest well. I was struck by this truth. Yes, when I was reflecting on Genesis 1 and 2, but I was struck by it from a psalm of ascent. Psalm 127, which is written by Solomon. It says this in verse 2, and I found it to be deeply convicting. From the wisdom of Solomon, it says, "In vain you rise early and stay up late," working. You rise early to get to work. You stay up late to work. And it says, toiling for food to eat, wrestling against the curse, trying to make enough bread, trying to make enough money to satisfy our insatiable appetites, whether our stomach or our hearts. And then he says this, "For he grants sleep to those he loves." That actually, how well we sleep is connected to a gift from God. How well we rest is connected to the love that God has for us. I would love it if a church, instead of merely guilting people to volunteer, would actually do a 6-week series on how to rest well. Because what I see in most Christians is that we worship God as a taskmaster, and one that is not good. one that is evil, one that puts all of the pressure of the salvation of everyone that is around us on our soldiers and shoulders, and whether or not we are doing our duty as good soldiers for the kingdom. A taskmaster that is not satisfied unless a certain level of a quota of productivity is accomplished. A taskmaster that is as demanding and evil as any one of us. And yet what I see from Genesis 1 to Psalm 127 is a God that is concerned about our rest. That he gives good sleep to those he loves. Here's my challenge for you this week. Learn the important, holy discipline of naps, of rest, of Sabbath, realizing that when you close your eyes, the rest of the world continues, and God is the one that is not slumbering. He is the one that is not closing his eyes. He is the one that is holding all of this together. And even though the mission is important, and even though he longs for us to participate in it, we must never forget that the mission does not rise and fall on us. And the best way to remind yourself this is to plunge deeply, passionately, in a disciplined manner into resting well. For, as the psalm says, he grants sleep to those he loves. So my prayer for you this week is that you learn to sleep well. I love you guys. Have a good week.